Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitschool.io Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips. I am your host Roy Weller and tonight we are at Francorchamps for round 9 of the series. We are just a few minutes into our qualifying session and at the moment it is Oliver Seitz returning to the series after a few rounds of absence, currently sitting at the top of our times with a 2-minute 20.960. Not far behind is one of our championships contender, Reese Tattersall, and in third on the timings is Johan Leffe. We can take a quick look at our championship standings as they are at the moment, with Sam McCarthy still leading the way with 663 points, just ahead of Chris Wright in P2 on 614. And then currently P2 in tonight's qualifying session is Reese Tattersall, our P3 driver, currently sitting on 561 points. It is worth pointing out that we will have 3 drop rounds from this series, so every opportunity for the standings to switch around as we enter into the final 3 rounds of the championship, and everything to play for, especially amongst our top 4 drivers, as a big pool of points to be taken away from every single race could see this championship turn on its head in the final 3 rounds. As we return to our on-track action, still Seitz leading the way ahead of Tattersall and Leffe, with our championship leader Sam McCarthy sitting in P4. Currently our top 3 drivers in a class of their own, some 2 seconds ahead of McCarthy in P4. So quite the gains needed to be found by McCarthy if he wants to get higher up and challenge for those podium positions in tonight's race. Whereas P2 in our championship, Chris Wright currently finds himself down in P12, seemingly struggling with this part of Francorchamps circuit, and with just over 3.5 minutes remaining of this session, he needs to find something special if he wants to challenge for that championship win. As numerous of our drivers out on track currently looking to improve on their best lap time. Steve Goosens in the Porsche Cup police car. There's just a couple of corners left to go to finish off this lap and has got a couple of seconds in hand over their previous best. Good opportunity for them to move up the order for tonight's race. Although that must be said, starting position not going to be so important here at Spa as Steve Goosens goes round the final corner sideways. That is going to see him throwing away a good chunk of time as he comes to cross the line. It does improve in time, but not in position. As Sam McCarthy, our championship leader, looking to improve on their previous best, with just the final sector to go. Keeping it within the white lines. Now just a flat out run down to the final chicane, but looking like Sam McCarthy has perhaps not got the best of exits out of the chicane as they're bleeding away time as they come down towards the final couple of corners, and I don't think this is going to be an improvement for McCarthy as they approach the chicane. Going to need to find something here if they want to move up in position. Still some 1.5 seconds away from Leffert in P3. They will have time for one more flying lap. As we're seeing potential improvements coming out for all of our top 3, so we will keep an eye on them and check in as needs. As Rhys Tattersall only needs to find 2.5 tenths to move them up to pole position. But currently Bernhard Bendel is finding some time on this lap, needs just a couple of tenths to jump ahead of Svoboda. And just a little more to get into P7. So this looking like it could be a good lap from Bendel. Currently P4 in the standings and jumps themselves up into P5 provisionally for tonight's grid. Again, we'll have another chance at a flying lap here. But it's Rhys Tattersall who's really flying at the moment. Will not want to get caught out by the car ahead as it dives off the circuit to get out of the way of a charging Tattersall, who just has 2 major turns left to go. Although I think from listening to other drivers, this turn, slight lift there in these Porsche Cup cars, but not much, as Rhys Tattersall is on the path for taking pole position. Just needs to keep it tidy around the final 2 corners as they jump on the throttle and drive down to the line. This is going to be close, but I think Tattersall, as he crosses the line, is it enough? By 7 thousandths of a second. But no, Rhys Tattersall has to make do with P2, and what a close qualifying this was. But in the end, Rhys Tattersall will start alongside, but slightly behind Oliver Seitz for tonight's race. As Chris Wright crosses the line, improves in time and jumps themselves up into P9 with a last-ditch effort. And that will certainly give them a better opportunity in tonight's race, but still far off of where they'd want to be. The driver who's currently sitting in P2 in the standings. As we are seeing some improvements for the drivers further down the grid, as Sandro Gingel has just a few corners left to go. As there is a car pointing the wrong way in the chicane. That's not going to be the best to facilitate you in finishing your lap, but Sandro Gingel moves himself up into P20 with 2:26.3. As we have just a few more cars left to finish their qualifying session tonight. As Alain Chaffee hit, whoa, sideways through the 3rd sector. It certainly looks good, but I don't think it's fast, as Balazs bleeds away the time and the run up to the bus stop chicane and runs it very wide and will not be finding an improvement in his lap time. So it looks like the final driver with a chance of improving is Steve Goosens, who moves himself up into P14. And I believe, everyone, that will be our grid for tonight's race. So don't go anywhere. We will be back very shortly for tonight's race. Welcome back everyone, as our drivers take us around the Spa-Francorchamps circuits for the formation lap. Just enough time to remind ourselves of the starting order for tonight's race. On pole position we have got Oliver Seitz, followed by Rhys Tattersall, Johan Leffe, Sam McCarthy, Bernhard Bendel, Joe Wilson, Svoboda, Shashinsky, Wright, Kroos, Herks, Von Retberg, Fahit, Goossens, Sanyal, Michalak, Eklund, De Moor, Smith, Lorenzon, Gingle, Nitro, Guerrera, Katchelmeyer, Jay, and Tranmere. A 26 strong grid for tonight's race. Could be a very interesting event. Remember, for this Porsche Cup Series sponsored by SimQuips, that we have no pit stops. It's just a straight out sprint from lights to flag. 30 minutes of racing action coming your way very soon. And could be big repercussions for the championship tonight, especially with Seitz getting involved at the sharp end of the grid. The likes of McCarthy and Wright starting slightly further back than we would usually expect. Plenty of opportunity for Tattersall to climb their way up from that P3 position they currently find themselves in. And further back in the grid we have got some new faces to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup. So it will be interesting to see how they get on, and just hope they enjoy themselves tonight. Pitskill.io, a friendly community for sim racers, and free to join for anyone who wishes to do so. So if you're interested in joining the races, please do get yourself signed up with the referral link found in the description below. As we're also just a few weeks from the start of the next season at pitskill.io, where you'll be able to sign yourselves up for championships and series the next 12 weeks. And the Spa circuit always feels super long when you're sitting in for a formation lap. These cars going nowhere near their usual pace. And we'll keep an eye throughout our entire grid at the start of this race, as the treacherous Eau Rouge can definitely be known to catch a few drivers out at the start of a race. So we'll just hope that everyone can keep it nice and clean throughout, as our leaders approach bus stop chicane. The rest of our pack should be forming up 2 by 2 as we get ready to get this race underway. It'll be this driver here, Rhys Tattersall, who wants to be making the most of tonight's race to try and improve their championship standings. And that bit of a slide through the final corner. Well, they perhaps just warming the tyres up there, but a crash there would not have helped their race. And actually, I say final corner. It's not, is it? Because I always forget that in these GT races, the races start after what is actually the first corner on the run down to Eau Rouge. I don't think there will ever be a time when I don't get caught out by that. But nonetheless, as our drivers round what is the final corner of the formation lap, and we get ready to wave the green flag and start racing here. It's just a few short moments away. We are racing in Belgium as Oliver Seitz gets a good start ahead of Rhys Tattersall. as they all line up through the first corner, and it looks like we have got all of our cars through Eau Rouge nice and safely. Everyone being very well behaved as we get to listen to that glorious sound of the Porsche Cup car engines coming down the Kemmel Straight. Just a moment of silence to appreciate those roaring Porsche engines as we got contact in the background, and it looks like that is the car off the circuit. I'm not sure who that is in the background. It looks like everyone through the first sector at least pointing in the right direction, as currently Oliver Seitz leads Reese Tattersall ahead of Johan Lefett, with Sam McCarthy just slightly further back, and already Reese Tattersall beginning to apply pressure to Seitz, just 0.4 seconds back. As yellow flags for Bernhard Bendel, who spins off onto the gravel, and there's going to be a long wait there to get back on the circuit. See what happened to Bendel. As we come down and approach the chicane. Oh, well, looked like the car was starting to pitch itself into a slide. Unfortunately, we didn't quite catch the start of that. As Reese Tattersall getting a little bit out of sorts and opens the door for Leffe, who jumps at the opportunity. It's going to be side-by-side run down into the La Source hairpin. With Reese Tattersall on the inside, should be able to hold on to this position, but Johan Leffe trying to get the switch back. Tattersall blocks it off, and they run line astern down towards Eau Rouge. As long as Leffe can maintain this distance, should have a good run down the Kemmel Straight, as Tattersall cuts right over the top of Radion. It gets a little bit of a run on Leffe, and I'm not sure Leffe would be too pleased with that one there, as Tattersall certainly gains an advantage for running over the top of Radion. As Kroos and Szczecinski go side by side. Szczecinski makes contact off the circuit, as we've got a little bit of dust being kicked up by the cars behind, but Szczecinski back on track, losing a few positions. As we've got some close battling in our midfield, as Tim von Retberg chases down Perks, the P10. As Kroos has made his way past Svoboda. And it's looking like a bold attempt here. It looks like Kroos just having a bit of a bad run out of the previous corner. Opens the door. Sorry, Svoboda having a bad run. Kenny Kroos with the good exit, and in the end what would look like quite a simple overtake, just taking the inside line. So we've got battling up and down our grid tonight, as Nitro runs wide. This should open the door for Florent Demort, takes the inside line, position gained for Demort, and it looks like Jay also having a look in the background, eyeing up an opportunity up the inside. As Demore runs slightly wide, and Nitro, J and Eklund follow through. Is Nitro gonna try and stick it in? Oh, as we've got a little bit of bumping going on the tail end of our grid, as Nitro getting forced, Demore getting forced slightly wide there. As Tim von Retberg and Szczecinski, it is Szczecinski going side by side through Eau Rouge. up towards Radion. Still nose to tail as they come down the Kemmel Straight. Von Retberg looking to the outside as Jasinski defends the inside. It's going to be late on the brakes, sends it round the outside. It's a glorious move from Von Retberg. Car right on the edge of grip to the outside of the circuit and up into P10. But Jasinski's fighting it back, trying to go round the outside. It's going to be a tricky move to pull off, but should turn into the inside if he manages to keep it alongside, which he does. These two battling hard over P10. As Jasinski holds on to P10 for now, Von Retberg just dropping out of touching distance. As behind this group, we've got the trio of Jay, Guerra and Eklund battling over P15. These three also exceptionally close. There's Jose Guerra. Under threat now from Eklund. Eklund, a seasoned Porsche Cup racer. He's been taking part in a number of these events over the season. So the cars just spread out ever so slightly. Now you get to concentrate on just driving their lines for a while. As we have another set of cars up towards the front end of the grid, as Chris Wright looks to battle his way forward after starting this race down the order, and he's going to need to move forward if he wants to protect his P2 in the championship. As Perks and Svoboda go side by side into Lecombe. Svoboda just dropping back, letting Perks through. Perks up into P8 now. As Wright closes in on Wilson. Just closing that gap up in the braking zones, but looks like Wilson with the better exit, able to hook up the apex slightly better. We'll give him just himself a little bit of breathing room for right behind, as Svoboda and Perks battling hard in the background as well. Well, Florent Demore looking to make the move on Eklund, as Eklund runs very wide. And nothing made of it just yet. More still chasing Eklund through Blanchimont. Looking to the inside, is a little too far back to really make this one work, but Eklund leaves the room. Nice and respectful there between them, as Demore backs out, realising they're just a little too far back to really have a go there. As Wright gets a good run through the top of Radion, is right on the back of Wilson now down the Kemmel Straight, goes to the outside Francorchamps, is it going to be a repeat of that move we saw from Szczecinski earlier? Down the outside, hangs it in well. Space left by Wilson. This is solid driving from the pair of them, but it looks like Wilson holding on to the inside. He can keep the position through the hairpin. Might be able to hold on to this one. Oh, as there's a little bit of a bump between the pair of them. And it is Perks who now finds himself right on the back of Wright. As the battle spreads out ever so slightly, it's Kenny Crows who wants to try and take P4 off of Sam McCarthy. There's the gap just widening out slightly, not going to be close enough to have a go into the bus stop chicane. Unless he can make up the ground. Coming through the run up to the bus stop chicane is getting closer. Not quite close enough for a lunge at this point, but showing his intent, getting right onto the rear bumper of Sam McCarthy. Behind this pair, Chris Wright's continuing to chase after Joe Wilson and can see Sam McCarthy just ahead in the distance. His championship contender, as there's been contact between Crows and McCarthy. McCarthy round. Oh, what happened here? McCarthy looking like he was a bit out of sorts coming out of the final corner as they come down towards the La Source hairpin. Oh, as McCarthy just gets out of sorts, getting on the throttle on the sausage curb on the outside of the exit of La Source. Starts spinning, collects, I think that's Crows. And Crows very respectfully waiting there. Obviously felt there was more he could have done to avoid the contact and waits for McCarthy to get going. But this is not going to play well for McCarthy's championship, dropping back from P4 all the way down to P8. As Chris Wright continues to chase Joe Wilson, needs to keep an eye on his track cuts as I saw him running just slightly wide at the exit of turn 11. As Crows makes it past von Retberg. Von Retberg running wide through the exit of Pouon. And Crows getting it made through round the outside at campus. And has now taken P9 off of von Retberg. You see Chris Wright trying to close on Joe Wilson. Svoboda also putting pressure on George Perks. They come into the La Source hairpin. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle from Perks on the exit could open the door for Svoboda on the run down to Eau Rouge. Not a place where you really want to be trying to go side by side, as Svoboda opts to just sit in behind his competitor, but has got a very good run out of the top of Radion. And also with a good run is Chris Wright, looking to the outside of Wilson. Is he going to be able to get the move done this time around? Wilson wise to it as we've got two cars going sideways through Lecombe. As that was Perks and Svoboda. As Perks getting himself up onto the curb and sliding his way through Lecombe. And in the end that did allow Crows to go by. Had to take to the runoff to avoid contact, but now firmly up into P8 and on the back of Sam McCarthy after his earlier incident. As further back, we still have the trio of Bendel, Guerra, Demore, with Eklund not far behind. As Demore tries to find a way through. Demore to the inside. It's going to turn into the outside, so there's an opportunity for Guerra to try and come back at this one. Oh, sorry, Bendel. No, that was Guerra. There's Guerra dropping back behind both Bendel and Demore now. Position made for Florent Demore up into P17 in this race. As Chris Wright continues to apply pressure to Joe Wilson, who's been soaking it up like a champion so far. And that gap between Wright and Wilson looking like it's opening up ever so slightly, but Wright with a very good run through Radion. Looks like he's definitely got the overspeed now. As we dive into Lecombe, and this time we can just see the front of Wilson as Wright tries to close off the move. They're side by side now, coming down into the brochure hairpin, and Joe Wilson still managing to stay ahead. This is good racing from the pair of them as Joe Wilson runs very wide out of No Name. And still Chris Wright doing all of the work but getting none of the gains so far. Sits in P5. And he's got just under 12 minutes remaining of this race to try and get that small opportunity that he needs to move his way forward. As you can see, Svoboda also catching on to the back of this battle. And it's Chris Wright again running very wide. Can't tell from where we're sitting, but I can only imagine that Wright is currently sat on a couple of track limits violations. We have seen him run very wide out of a few of the corners. And well, with a third left remaining in this race, and just needs to keep his head cool, keep it careful. Because the pack isn't spread out far enough at the moment for a Spa drive-through by any stretch of the imagination. As Kenny Crows is maintaining a distance from the back of Stan McCarthy, has been yet to make any real impact in this battle, but is keeping himself there and looking ready to pounce in case Sam McCarthy does make any sort of mistake. As Chris Wright still staying just as close to the back of Joe Wilson. Is not really making any real inroads. As running wide through the exit of No Name yet again. I think Chris Wright will be very grateful that these races are not ranked using the pit rest system, because I'm pretty sure he's had one off track at least every lap so far. As Kenny Crows has closed up that gap to Sam McCarthy and is sniffing for an opportunity as he gets a much better exit. Coming through Stavelot, now the run through Blanchimont. This could be an opportunity for Crows. Stuck right to the rear of the car ahead. It's going to be a good run down into the chicane. Looks to the inside. Is he going to be brave under the brakes? Thinks better of it. Taking the safer option as Sam McCarthy runs deep. This could again turn into an opportunity for Crows, who gets a very good run down towards La Source. Is he going to look towards the inside? He does. Going to have to go deep on the brakes. Sam McCarthy not leaving much room on the inside as Crows tries to get on the throttle. And, well, we've seen that sort of slide from McCarthy in the past as well. And this time it is Crows making the lapse of judgment on the throttle and slips behind. We'll have to look for another opportunity as Chris Wright again challenging Joe Wilson. And this time looking to make the switch back to the inside. I was about to say that repetition was not necessarily going to be Chris Wright's best approach there, but tries to switch things up, this time aiming for the inside. Not quite the overlap required to make the move work, but Chris Wright looking like he's willing to try different things to try and get this move made on Joe Wilson that he's been attempting lap after lap after lap. This time, well, just about keeps it within the track limits on the exit of No Name, although it does look like Chris Wright has invalidated his lap somewhere else on the circuit this lap. And there's just 7 minutes to try and move himself up into P4, as this battling means this pair has drifted quite some distance away from the likes of Seitz, Tattersall and Leffe, who have really just been running races on their own up in the front. As can be the danger of such a lonely dominant race. You don't get yourself much screen time, so sponsors of those three drivers not necessarily going to be especially happy. But well, they will be happy with their performance and with getting the podium positions. As Chris Wright tucking right up behind Joe Wilson. But as yet not able to get the overlap into the important corners. As we've seen running side by side through Le Combe on numerous laps, but not necessarily the best of places to make the move stick, as the frequent left-rights through that section of the circuit does make it a bit of a gamble as to who's going to get in front, but a slide from Joe Wilson could present now another opportunity for Chris Wright. Will he just keep his boot in all the way through Eau Rouge and Radion, get that run through the Kemmel Straight, as Chris Wright is so close now, running way over the runoff through the top of Radion and getting the overspeed, tucks back into the slipstream of Joe Wilson. Wants that inside line. Joe Wilson will not give it to him, so Chris Wright's going to have to try and make this work around the outside again. This time diving in deep. They're side by side still through Le Combe as they come down now towards the Pursuer hairpin. This time Chris Wright's got himself fully ahead. A little bit too greedy on the curbs by Wilson has allowed Chris Wright through up into P4, and now Joe Wilson with his mirrors for Svoboda. Might have to start concentrating on looking behind and defending again rather than trying to move forward and take the position back off of Chris Wright. It's Svoboda. Now getting closer to Wilson, who has a little way of a sideways moment coming through campus. And I wonder if that heavy battling with Chris Wright has just cost Joe Wilson a bit of tyre wear, as he does seem to be struggling through some of the slower sections of the track just to put the power down on the exit. As we've got yellow flags out for George Perks, who's way off in the run-up. What has happened to Joe Perks? Whoa, already going sideways through Stavolo. Snap of oversteer and way off into the runoff. Hits the tyre wall. And that is not going to be ideal for George Perks, who I wonder if there's just heavy damage to the front of that car, because does not look like it's pointing where he wants it to. Well, no, seems to at least be going where the wheel is pointing. So George Perks just struggling to get out of the runoff. As Kenny Crow's having another go at Sam McCarthy as we head up through Radion. Sam McCarthy not even bothering to turn in for Radion. That was a disgusting track cut from McCarthy. They come down towards Lacombe. Crow's looking to the inside. Deep on the brakes, has got that overlap with McCarthy. Oh, but a little bit too much curb, sends the car sideways. Does well to collect it. No idea how Crow's held on to that one, but manages to hold on to his PA and doesn't extend that gap out to McCarthy by too much. We'll have 2.5 minutes remaining of this race to try again to close that gap up and attack Sam McCarthy and take that P7 position. As Joe Wilson is continuing to battle with Chris Wright, is stuck with our runner-up in the championship, and is continuing to apply pressure. Chris Wright hasn't run away. It did look like he had the pace earlier in the race, but now going sideways through Stavolo. Is this going to allow Joe Wilson back through? I think it may. And that hard fought for position for Chris Wright slips through his fingers like sand in the wind, and Joe Wilson back up into P4. Chris Wright now seeing under pressure from Svoboda, but Chris Wright not wanting to settle for P5 in this race, dives up the inside into the chicane, and it might be Svoboda who's going to get the run on both of them here. Oh no, as Joe Wilson loses the rear. Heartache there for Joe Wilson, who's trying to hold on to the position on the inside, trying to get on the throttle just a little too early, too heavy on the throttle. Sharp turn of the wheel to avoid going into the side of Svoboda, nearly goes into the back of Chris Wright. But that means Joe Wilson now dropped back to P9 in this race as Von Retberg gets back P8. It means now the battle for P4 in this race is between Wright and Svoboda, as it's looking like this will be the final lap of the race. Svoboda goes deep into Lacombe. We'll have to give that position back to Chris Wright. And it was a good effort there by Svoboda, but just a little bit too deep on the brakes, as Crow's continuing to catch and chase McCarthy, as we saw some yellow flags for Joe Wilson again. Perhaps just overcooked those tyres now. He needs to just calm it down, bring the car home. There's Kenny Kroos getting a bit sideways, coming through Pouon, and very nearly spins it into the wall. Just collects the car, sends it on its way. But now crossing the line to take the victory here at Spa-Francorchamps is Oliver Seitz, taking P1 and the checkered flag. Our runner-up will be Rhys Tattersall in P2, and rounding out the podium is Johan Leffe. Well fought battle in the end. These three having quite lonely races, separated by about 5 seconds from each other. As for now at least, looking like Chris Wright has managed to hold on to P4, has withstood that last lap attack from Svoboda, and will take a good haul of much needed championship points from this race as Svoboda crosses the line in P5, followed shortly behind by our championship leader Sam McCarthy, followed by Kenny Kroos and Tim von Retberg. Then, having dropped down a little bit down the order, is Joe Wilson in P9, who spears it into the wall. Next will be Steve Goosens, finishing in P10. Then Marco Lorenzon, Bernhard Bendel, Tadeusz Szczecinski, Sandro Gingle, and rounding the final corner now is the trio of Jay, Eklund and Fahir. As our drivers start to perform donuts in the runoff, we have got Jose Guerra and Mark Saniel crossing the finish line, followed shortly behind by Florent Demore. We have Grzegorz Mikulak and I don't think that is that, nope, Smith's already in the runoff, so that must be George Perks, who that will be the last of our finishers. We saw having those late race incidents dropping him all the way down the order from what was, I believe, P8 earlier on, now running down in P23. Not been a race to write home about for George Perks. As we say, congratulations to our race winner Oliver Seitz, and Rhys Tattersall and Johan Leffe running out the rest of the podium. Just remains to say thank you very much for watching, everyone, and do tune in next week when the pitskill.io Porsche Cup, sponsored by SimQuips, will return, and this time we will head to Valencia. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I have been your host, Roy Weller. If you have enjoyed this race, please do like and subscribe. Until next time, have a very lovely rest of your day.